live on all. Yeah, we should be live now on all three, so the YouTube and both of our Twitters. So what's going on, guys? We got a nice little Superflex mock draft set up for you guys, Dynasty. If you guys don't know the rules, Superflex, half PPR, no tight end premium for this mock draft. Discord filled this up within 2 seconds, so appreciate all of y'all out there. And let me just actually link the stream to the Discord so they know where to tune in. I'll actually do that for a second.
Yeah, so this is a Superflex Dynasty startup mock draft. We're going to go, I don't know, I think you got it set for 12 rounds. It seems like a pretty comfortable number. If you guys want to know kind of like deeper players, if you're going to start up in like the 22nd round right now and you're like, who should I pick? I don't know any of these players. Maybe you're new to Dynasty and you don't know some of the players there. You can always feel free to reach out to me or Danny. Maybe we'll make a video in the coming days talking about some deep guys to pick in Dynasty startup mocks for those of you guys that are doing those. Because I know once you get to like the 24th round or whatever, everyone's just like, does this even matter? And I would argue it does, because you can definitely find some deep gems there.
Some gems. And yeah, tune into this week because we're going to be talking about the overall best type of sleepers in your rookie draft. So Corey's going to be mentioning guys picked in the 3rd and 4th round. I'm going to be throwing out some UDFA type guys that many of you probably haven't even heard of, but guys that should be on your radar in Dynasty. So with that being said, let's get this show on the road. Let's get this draft randomized. And so Jared gets the first pick, and now we can begin. Perfect. So we got 2 questions there. Speaking of Jared, he's actually the first question or first comment. I'm number 1, 2 is not a winner, and 3 nobody remember. Well, I mean, you got the first pick, so I guess you're telling the truth. Picks 20 plus facts, Tyler, facts. That's just getting your guys at that point. Once you get to the 20 plus rounds, it's like you don't care about the ADP, you don't care about any of that. If I like somebody, I'm taking them. Because let's be honest here, even if you miss on that pick, it's a 20. Let's say it's a 22nd round pick. It's not going to be influential on your team.
Right. And we're currently in the 21st round of our Dynasty or listener Dynasty startup right now. Of course, my dog just had to decide to bark as soon as we started going live. So I'm going to go shut my door and I'll be back in 1 second.
Go for it. Josie just, she senses when you're going live. So there you go. So we got Flet on the clock here. And that's going to be me. Where are my rankings here? All right. So it isn't confusing. Can you refer to the other Jared as I'll refer to you as sexy Pats. How about that? Nice little sexy Pats here. So I'm caught here. I'm on the clock. I'm caught between Saquon Barkley and Jonathan Taylor, or I can look at quarterback. I think a decent quarterback's going to fall back to me. So I'm just going to lock up a running back, which is something I don't do real often. And I'll go Saquon Barkley this time. I think he'll be returned back to the greatness we saw in his 1st and 2nd year. Obviously, that knee injury fucked him last year, but I mean, this is a guy, true workhorse potential, one of the best running backs in the game, and he's got elite reception upside as well to match it. So that being said, you're actually the 9th pick. So who are you hoping to fall? Actually, don't say it because
I mean, Jonathan Taylor was who I was hoping would fall. He obviously just went. So Lamar Jackson, that's a pretty decent pick here. I'm looking at like a couple guys. The first round to me is always an area where I'm looking to come away with a running back, because I just believe running backs are always the way that you win in fantasy, and not necessarily reaching for a running back. I just think this is kind of the appropriate value for them. Yeah, quarterbacks are kind of flying off the board right now. I'm not usually willing to take a quarterback early in the draft unless it's like a Lamar at the end of the 1st round type of situation. Maybe Josh Allen slips to like the middle of the 1st round type of situation. But I am actually going to go. I'm going to go with Alvin Kamara.
Yeah,
I'm going to take Kamara. Dalvin Cook just gives me a little bit of pause. We know he has the injury history coming, like that is not going away. It was present before this year, and he kind of just stayed healthy this year, and everyone's got a little bit of recency bias with him. So he's a bit of an older running back. Injuries are going to start to affect him more and more as he goes forward in his career. And Alvin Kamara, again, being affected by recency bias. Everyone's scared of Taysom Hill, but what they fail to recognize is that the reason Alvin Kamara wasn't that good when Taysom Hill was starting is because he wasn't on the field very much, because he was also injured, much like Drew Brees was injured. So that one game that he was healthy for, he got like 7 targets or whatever in that game, and he got a goal line carry and a touchdown. So I'm not worried about Alvin Kamara whatsoever. If people are worried about Alvin Kamara in your startups and he falls anywhere past like the 109, 108, I would say it's absolute value and just pick him up at that point.
Yep, I mean, I fully agree. I mean, this is a locked and loaded top five running back if he plays the full 16 game schedule. Again, people are going to be worried about the Taysom Hill. I think Jameis Winston is going to be the starter. And if that's the case, because basically think of it from a coaching standpoint, right? Would you rather commit to Taysom Hill and just not play Jameis at all, or actually start Jameis, the better quarterback, and still be able to implement Taysom Hill into your offense? The ultimate goal here is getting the best overall play from your position. I think Jameis Winston is the better overall quarterback, and I'm sure at least a year in by now, Sean Payton's going to be able to recognize that. So that being said, we do see after Alvin Kamara, we see Dak Prescott, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Justin Jefferson, and Cam Akers follow closely after off the board. And overall in that group, I mean, Cam Akers is one that really intrigues me. I am again, we're kind of big Cam Akers advocates over here on the channel. I mean, the stretch that we saw at the end of the season last year, young, talented back with full workhorse type opportunity. I think honestly, the 202 is about appropriate value for him. Some people might think it's early, but he's currently, I believe, my dynasty RB8. So I'm fully capable, fully fine with taking him over there at the beginning of the second round type area.
Yeah, see, I'm really caught right now because my wide receiver 1 is still on the board, but Nick Chubb is also still on the board. I'm going to take a wide receiver just because I never do this. So I'm going to take Tyreek Hill, who is my locked and loaded wide receiver 1. He's attached to the right arm, the best quarterback in the NFL. He is absolutely not going anywhere anytime soon. Devontae Adams, we have the looming, Aaron Rodgers concerns that might scare people off a little bit. Justin Jefferson's a great player, and he had a phenomenal rookie year, but I can't take him over Tyreek Hill yet. There's no way that I can physically stomach taking a guy who has played in this NFL for one season over a guy that's been doing it for 4 or 5 years and has a far better quarterback situation going forward as well.
Yeah, I mean, I fully agree with that. Tyreek Hill is also my wide receiver 1 now with the current impending situation of Aaron Rodgers. I did have a Devontae Adams, but Tyreek Hill, you get elite dynamic ability tethered to the best right arm in football. I think it's a no-brainer having him at the 1. I mean, he's still only 26 years old. He's coming off a 1,500-yard, 15 touchdown season, and we should expect those numbers to continue skyrocketing because that offense isn't slowing down. So right. I agree. Tyreek Hill.
Nelson says in the chat, he said, what's the first tier drop off in a 1 quarterback league rookie draft? 6 pick, ? Harris, Chase, ETN, Williams, Pitts, then drop off. The way I see it, I know we probably differ a little bit in the way we see it, but the way I see it for sure is that Harris, Chase, and Pitts are the blue chip level fantasy prospects. And I also lump Travis Etienne into that category. I don't think you would. I think that's a bit more of a tier break for you. But I would say the first drop off in a 1 quarterback league rookie draft is either the 104 or the 105, depending on what you think of Travis Etienne.
Yeah, no, I do agree with the top 3 there. I know you would lump Etienne. He's a little bit off for me, but I think the prospect is fantastic in his own right. But I would say there's a small little drop off there, simply because the way I look at it is Harris, top 10 running back, locked and loaded. Chase, I think if he reaches his potential, he could be entering that top 5, top 10 type receiver, AJ Brown type level situation. And you mentioned Pitts. I mean, if this guy hits his ceiling, he's literally Kelsey 2.0. So that's kind of how I view it. But I do understand the rationale of having ETN kind of on that cusp.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think ETN, a lot of people are going to be a little bit nervous about his rookie season, but are people not nervous about other prospect at that top of the draft's rookie season? Like Kyle Pitts probably won't be tremendously involved as a rookie either if Julio Jones is still there. So the way I look at it is if you have to wait half a year, half a season for ETN to fully get his workload under him with James Robinson there. But I mean, if anybody thinks they're just going to split touches, like I don't really know what to tell you. The Jags organization told us what they think of James Robinson. This coaching staff did not find James Robinson. I'll say it again. I've said it a couple times before, and I will say it again. They did not find James Robinson. They have no commitment to the guy. He's a UDFA. Yes, he was fine, but let's not forget that this was like a tanking team, right? They're just like throwing bodies out there to field a roster. They weren't necessarily looking for James Robinson to become their future running back. They were just trying to get him out there to get through the season and get their first overall pick, which ended up happening.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I mean, they have absolutely no commitment to him, and everybody on Twitter everywhere wants to cite, oh, James Robinson was so good last year. When you actually look at the efficiency metrics,
he has a couple that he was okay. And like, he was good evading tackles and stuff, but in terms of like yards per touch and stuff that takes out of account his offensive line, more of his actual physical talent himself, a guy who has got the amount of receiving volume that James Robinson got last year should have had a higher yards per touch than he did. That's just the the truth. He was like 32 in the NFL in yards per touch, despite ranking highly in receptions, which would obviously bump that number up, given that receptions are more likely to lead to more yardage than a normal carry would.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. And if you're looking at that backfield in particular, I'm seeing Travis Etienne as figuring into that 50, 55 type reception rookie type season because they don't. Yeah, that's a good pick. I do like the CH pick there. But yeah, when you're looking and evaluating a guy in Travis Etienne, he is by far the most adept pass catcher in that entire offense. They've already said multiple times they want him to be that third down type of role for him initially, and maybe we could see that even progress throughout the season. I think this is Aaron Jones 2.0 type situation where you put him in, maybe he doesn't get the full allotment of snaps right away, but I think this guy by year 2, year 3 max, I think it's honestly going to be year 2. I'll be heavily shocked if he doesn't produce by next year. I think he's going to be a top 10, top 12 type running back option in fantasy football as soon as possible.
We're talking about him. I'm just going to pick him here because to me, it's a big time tier break. Once you get out of Etienne and Javonte Williams as well, you're really starting to get into question mark territory in terms of these running backs. Like at least the way I look at it, I look at Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders, and David Montgomery as early down RB2s next year from a redraft perspective. That's how I think their roles will shake out next year. I think we're guaranteed that Jacobs is going to get the bulk of the carries. We're guaranteed that Sanders is going to get the bulk of the carries. And then we're guaranteed that Montgomery is going to get the bulk of the carries. The question is, how much upside did those 3 guys have? Because all 3 of those guys, their teams have current and recent signings at like pass catching running back positions with Kenyon Drake coming in Las Vegas. And then they also, added a bunch of other guys. Same with Sanders getting Kenny Gainwell and now Kerryon Johnson added to that mix. And then David Montgomery has Tariq Cohen coming back from his ACL tear. So those guys are more of upside, lower upside RB2s in my opinion. So I will take the swing on a guy like Travis Etienne to outperform those guys as soon as this year and definitely going forward.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. And I do think 309 is the appropriate value for him. Again, I'm viewing him right now in terms of my dynasty rankings.
I have him ahead of Clyde in my rankings. So
yeah, that's definitely fair. So with that being said, let's get into a couple more of these questions. So Jared says, no love for Russell Wilson. I mean, the other Jared ended up getting him. So there you go. Yeah, Spicy Hot Robinson truthers just insane. Leonardo says, guys, would you go with Zach Wilson or Javonte in a 10-team Superflex? I have Watson, Mahomes, Darnold, Goff, and Jones, but only Akers, Dobbins, and Mostert.
Even without your situation, I would probably lean running back in that situation. As much as I love Zach Wilson, it's very well documented. George Kittle there is an absolute steal of a pick. Yeah. But it's well documented how much I love Zach Wilson. Javonte Williams, as I just mentioned with Etienne, is a tier break at the running back position for me. He's the last guy I see true RB1 type of upside for in the top, 16, 17, 18 running backs in my dynasty rankings. So Javonte, yeah, I would lean him over Wilson for sure, especially considering you have, even if Watson doesn't play this year, you'll still have Mahomes, Darnold, Goff, and Daniel Jones to play.
Yeah, you're absolutely stocked up there. I would also go with Javonte, and just think about the RB core that you would have if you add Javonte to that. Akers, Dobbins, Javonte, and Mostert. We've been on record multiple times saying Javonte Williams, 2022 and on, once Melvin Gordon's contract is up, is going to be that bell cow back. Even this year, Melvin Gordon on 247 touches with Phillip Lindsay still in the backfield was a top 14 RB in PPR formats. I think that's well within Javonte Williams' frame, reach, and in general, I think his touch workload, 247, I think is the minimum, to be quite honest. Because quite frankly, Melvin Gordon was fending off a guy like Phillip Lindsay, who was averaging 13 touches per game. 13 opportunities per game when he was on the field. That being said, Javonte Williams, he's got the capital. They jumped the Dolphins in order to get him. Melvin Gordon's done after this year. I think he's going to be a stud.
Yeah, and I kind of just spent a couple minutes shitting on Miles Sanders, but I just took him. And the reason is because I just said, I think his ceiling is RB2 type numbers, maybe low end RB1 if we see some injuries, which we're bound to see at the running back position. But Miles Sanders is still, like, anyone who thinks Kerryon Johnson, Kenny Gainwell are like taking over his job are just ludicrous. Like, he's still the starting running back, but we're probably looking at a guy who's capped around 250 type touches in an offense that is going to have a rushing quarterback. So he should be more efficient on the ground. And we saw that as soon as Jalen Hurts started to take over. So Miles Sanders still a guy I believe in. I just think the hype on Miles Sanders is a little out of control all the time to the point that it's hard to get a value on a guy like him because he's a guy that was thought to be a top 5 upside type of player last year. So people are still going to have that in the back of their minds and not be willing to let him slide very far down.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I kind of got sniped back to back. I wanted Stephon, he got sniped, and I wanted the stack with Burrow and Chase, and he got sniped. So I'm just gonna go with my boy, a guy I just recently acquired in trade in our Dynasty League together. I'm gonna go with CeeDee Lamb.
Right. And I'm actually going to employ like a 0 quarterback strategy. I just want to see how it works out. I've never done this before. Normally, the pick that I was at, I probably would have picked Ryan Tannehill or maybe even taken a swing if Deshaun's off the board, but I would have probably taken Ryan Tannehill, maybe taken a swing at Aaron Rodgers or something like that. But I want to see how this works out. If you fade quarterback to like, the 6th, 7th round, I just want to see if I can come away with a formidable quarterback core and really just stack the top of my roster because I have 3 great running backs right now and I have Tyreek Hill, and I'm probably going to look to add more skill positions in the next round or 2, depending on what the quarterback situation looks like.
Yep, definitely see it. So that being said, we do see Kyle Pitts come off the board right after those top 3. What are your thoughts on that?
I think in terms of ADP, it makes a lot of sense, right? Darren Waller, Travis, I personally can't get on board with taking him over any of those top 3 guys because I know at least for the next 2 years, especially in Kelsey and Waller's case, given their age, those guys are going to be top 3 tight ends, right? And Kyle Pitts, whether he turns into that or not, I can't say that for sure over the next 2 years that Kyle Pitts is going to be a top 6 tight end even, right? Because we're still talking about the tight end position. For the most part, it does take some time to develop, and maybe Kyle Pitts is different. Maybe he comes out right away and is a superstar tight end, but to be like, if that happens, Kyle Pitts will be the first tight end to do that in NFL history. Like, that's legitimately not an exaggeration. No tight end has ever come out and been that good that early. Like Mark Andrews, Rob Gronkowski, and George Kittle all did it in their second seasons, but none of them did it as rookies. Even George Kittle and Rob Gronkowski took a year to get developed. So I think that's what's probably going to happen with Kyle Pitts, is that this year he's a little bit more up and down, and next year he's really breaking onto the scene.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. And I really wanted Tannehill to fall.
I did too, and I figured he wouldn't get to me anyway.
Yeah. I'm kind of looking at the board. Javonte Williams was my backup, so that's great. Now I'm just kind of scrambling. I'm kind of seeing what's available.
Wow, Javonte on the board there. That is crazy. I didn't actually even see him. To be honest, I thought he was gone. I would have picked him over Miles Sanders straight up, but
yeah, I would have taken him. Now I'm caught here. I could consider going with a better overall receiver year 1 in Michael Thomas or Allen Robinson, but I'm kind of liking the youth of my team. And with that being said, I'm seeing T. Higgins on the board, and I have Jamar Chase. So in this type of situation, I think they're going to be a really good stack for like at least the next 4 or 5 years. And this is the type of point where I will reach on a guy like T. Higgins because I have that Burrow, because I have a young team to really be able to support them. I'm looking at this team, and I'm seeing guys that are really going to peak together. And I really like the look of it so far. Although
if Josh Jacobs gets back to me, I'm not passing on him.
Yeah, and I was going to say, although it's not familiar territory for me to only have 1 quarterback 5 rounds in.
Yeah, for sure. And I have 2 QBs on my mind, or actually 3 right now. So I'm definitely going to get one of them. I'm hoping I get one specifically though, and I'm hoping one that I don't want goes ahead of me.
I know who it is. Let's get into a couple of these questions. So 25 here. Remember you guys? Hey, what's up? Gotta come through a little more often. I'm fucking miss seeing you.
For sure.
That was a weird way to say it, but yeah, I'm just straight off the
Danny
cuff.
Jones ceiling this year. I think what you can see from Daniel Jones is similar to what you saw from Baker Mayfield last year. I don't think that was one of the guys I was targeting, but I don't think what you're going to see from Daniel Jones is like phenomenal ceiling. Like, I don't think he's gonna be a top 5 quarterback or anything, but I do think he can sneak his way into that top 15 range, much like Baker Mayfield did, or maybe like kind of Kirk Cousins range, because I think he has that kind of capability. And before the clock runs out on me, I seriously think this is the guy that I just picked. I think has QB1 ceiling. I legitimately think this year, Matthew Stafford has the potential to actually finish as the quarterback 1. It would take ungodly passing numbers, obviously, because we know Matthew Stafford isn't the most mobile guy in the world. But with that Rams scheme, we always talk about quarterback nests for rookie quarterbacks. We don't necessarily talk about them a lot for veteran quarterbacks. And Matthew Stafford has kind of been overshadowed a little bit by Sam Darnold and Carson Wentz getting their new quarterback landing spots. But Matthew Stafford's is better than both of theirs, in my opinion, because you got the weapons, you got the coaching staff, you got the offensive line. Matthew Stafford has never been in a position like this in his career.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of view him similar to, as you mentioned, what Ryan Tannehill kind of did this year. Ryan Tannehill was a top 10 quarterback in an offense that didn't really even pass much. If we see Matthew Stafford have a Ryan Tannehill level efficiency on ultimately more volume with the weapons that they have in LA, I can see, as you mentioned, quarterback one type upside. I think the floor here, if he hits his potential, would be top 5, which is saying a lot considering we don't normally see non-mobile quarterbacks enter that type of fray. That's how talented Stafford is, and that's how talented the situation around him is.
Right. Yeah. And we're seeing a little bit of a quarterback run now after Wilson was taken. I took Stafford, then Jalen Hurts goes, Kirk Cousins goes. The question is going to be who pulls the trigger on Aaron Rodgers, because at this point in the draft, he's a value in my opinion. And if he makes it back to me, I'm not passing on him, especially considering I have Alvin Kamara, who's and Miles Sanders, who might be more win now type running backs, given the state of the position and the uncertainty with some of their futures. So I have an older quarterback already. I might just stack him with Aaron Rodgers and go for the championship right away in this theoretical dynasty league that we're doing right now. And I'm not passing Aaron Rodgers here. I'm going to take him right now.
That's a good value. And I mean, you could lock up Jordan Love, let's say hypothetically later, and you instantly lock in a good quarterback option. And if Aaron Rodgers gets dealt and you drafted Jordan Love later, let's say hypothetically, or you just got a free extra starting quarterback. So, right. I mean, it's a win-win situation. Aaron Rodgers is going to play this year, regardless if it's a Packer or if it's elsewhere. I don't believe this hype where he's going to sit out the season. I just don't see that remotely even being a possibility. But yeah, let's get into some of these comments. Kittle over Kelsey there, dang. I mean, if you're going for a younger type team, I understand it.
I personally would take Kittle over Kelsey in a dynasty startup, personally. Like, I know it's Travis Kelsey's been the tight end one the last 5 years in a row. But George Kittle is significantly younger. George Kittle just got an upgrade at quarterback, and he has a number of other playmakers around him to help take some attention off of him. And I know some people might think of that as a negative, right? Like, oh, he's not going to get the target volume because Ayuk and Deebo Samuel will finally be healthy together on the field. But George Kittle's an efficient player, man. And if there's guys taking attention away from him, you're going to see those big splash plays that George Kittle is capable of producing on a more consistent basis when he's not the complete center of attention.
Yep, I absolutely agree. And I'm not going to say who I'm eyeing right now, but I'm sure you can kind of guess. And I'm just
you don't have a second quarterback right now, so I'm guessing you're looking at Baker Mayfield.
I was actually hoping for him on the way back because DJ Moore is still on the board in the 608.
Wow. Yeah, so to me, Kareem Hunt's a fine running back piece, but to me, he's a little bit of a panic running back pick. Sorry, Sexy Pats. To pick him over someone like DJ Moore or Amari Cooper, I just think you're getting way more bang for your buck out of those guys because Kareem Hunt, he's going to be valuable the next couple of years as the tandem back with Nick Chubb, but we all already know he doesn't really have a ceiling unless Chubb gets hurt.
Dude, I'm looking at my team right now. Imagine I go into year 2 of this freaking team and I have Joe Burrow, Saquon Barkley, Nick Chubb, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, and DJ Moore. That is great.
Yeah, and I think the rest of my team is going to be really pivoted towards a win now strategy given the age of my quarterbacks too.
Yeah, and again, at the time, I thought, okay, maybe T. Higgins was a slight reach. But if you swap the DJ Moore and T. Higgins picks, I think there's appropriate values for them too.
Yeah. I do think that's a valid strategy, Flet, because a lot of people really panic on quarterbacks. And it's not that I'm fading quarterback until like the 9th round or something like that and starting Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, and Daniel Jones. No, I'm fading quarterback to the extent that I see runs, right? Because we saw quarterback run in the 1st round, and we'll typically always see this in a Superflex draft, where you're going to see the big name guys, the Kyler Murrays, the Josh Allens, the Justin Herberts, the Lamar Jacksons, and I'm okay missing out on those guys. I would much rather take elite options at other positions and then start to look at the young quarterbacks like Joe Burrow and Trey Lance and Justin Fields in the 3rd round. And if I miss out on that run, then I'm okay again punting it again for the next run, which is the Matthew Stafford, Jalen Hurts, Zach Wilson type of tier of quarterbacks for me. Because that's really the first point in the draft that I'm comfortable taking a quarterback, because I just find a guy like Kyler Murray, well, he's a great player and he's a great asset to have on your team. To me, he's not more valuable, even in a Superflex league, than Saquon Barkley or Jonathan Taylor. I just don't think he's more valuable than those guys. That's fair. Because I still have my questions about Kyler Murray. Is Patrick Mahomes more valuable than those guys in a Superflex? Yes, but Patrick Mahomes is the only quarterback, in my opinion, that's more valuable than those elite bell cow running backs.
The only one I could probably argue with would be Josh Allen. Yeah. And I do think, again, people are going to call me biased, but if Dak Prescott was entering the season fully healthy, I would say he would be in a conversation for that second tier after the McCaffrey and the what's called Patrick Mahomes. But yeah, no, I don't understand the panic, if it will, at the quarterback position, just taking him in the mid first over just every single running back, which is why, to be frank, oh shit, I thought that was my pick for a second. Which is why, to be frank, I just avoid picking in that spot in general. I always trade down when I get a high pick.
That is true. You do always trade down.
I'm just going to lock up the stack here. I think this is reasonable value on Sam Darnold, so I'll just lock him up. Got the stack with DJ Moore. 7th round for a youngish quarterback. Maybe has a good blowout season this year and maybe gets extended. So I think this is about the point in the draft where I'm willing to take that risk.
Yeah, I think that's fair as well. And I'm really going to show what it's like to go for a win now type of mold here, just to make a point that if you guys notice this, and this isn't something you should go into a draft. You shouldn't be like, I'm going in looking to be a young team, or I'm going in looking to be a contending team. You let that strategy play out as you get further into your draft. Right away, I could have gone to a contending team right away, right? Because I had Alvin Kamara and Tyreek Hill as my first couple picks. Those guys are in their primes right now. Like, they are prime fantasy assets right now. But I thought the value was too good on Travis Etienne to pass him at 3.9. So I could have also just kind of went for a more balanced approach. And then with my next 3 picks, I thought those were more win now picks. And I'm going to literally get sniped immediately because Julio Jones would have been the guy that I was just going to pick. But I'm going to look around at the board and see kind of what I'm looking for here.
You should get TB12 and you can complete the trifecta of old quarterbacks.
I'm not going to get TB12, but I am going to take TJ Hawkinson here just because I think it's too good a value to pass up. I think when you get into Andrews versus Hawkinson, and we even saw Noah Fant go at the 5'10", I think TJ Hawkinson personally should go ahead of all 3 of those guys, or both of those guys, because TJ Hawkinson, while his situation is a little grim right now with only Jared Goff playing quarterback, like, let's not pretend that Jared Goff is Drew Lock or even freaking any worse options that he could have. Like, TJ Hawkinson has a competent quarterback right now, and he has a situation where there's not a lot of competition for targets. So at the very least, he should be a high volume type of option. And if they bring in, I don't know, whoever the number 1 receiver in the next year's draft is to compete with him for targets, then you got a nice formidable core. And I think, the rising tide lifts all boats kind of argument for an offense is that if they get 2 big time playmakers on the outside to complement TJ Hawkinson and DeAndre Swift, then that offense could just be really efficient in general if they get the right signal caller.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. So that being said, I mean, you're kind of going in the win now type of team with a couple young options. I'm kind of more so in I don't want to say a rebuilding type team, but a team that's probably going to reach its peak year 2, year 3 in this dynasty league. So yeah, different strategies, but I like both of our teams so far in terms of what we're trying to attack.
What do you think of this comment here? Nick says Devontae Smith over Jamar Chase. Now, Danny pre-draft agreed with you. He had Devontae Smith as his wide receiver 1 pre-draft. Jamar Chase, to me, lands in a more optimistic situation because, I mean, Jalen Hurts has some job security, I would say, but we don't know for sure that Jalen Hurts is going to work out as a quarterback. And I guess you could say that for Joe Burrow as well, but I have more faith in Joe Burrow long-term than I do Jalen Hurts. Not to mention the whole connection with Jamar Chase, the play calling situation. I think Zach Taylor's proven his worth to some degree as a play caller. So I trust Devontae Smith to be a good option, but I trust Jamar Chase just a little bit more.
Yeah, no, and I fully agree. That's kind of where I'm at as well. It's easier for me
exactly who I wanted with that next pick.
That's a great pick. It's easier for me to project Jamar Chase in terms of his output rather than Devonta Smith, simply because of the uncertainty that we have with the Eagles. You mentioned the quarterback situation. You mentioned with the real failure to develop young receivers in the past. It's kind of wary when you actually compare it to what Jamar Chase has. He's in a situation with his old college teammate with Joe Burrow. He's in a situation where he could step in 120, 130 type targets. And he's in a situation where, quite frankly, the Bengals, what they've been able to do since even the 2010s, they've been able to develop some young talent. We've seen it multiple times. We saw AJ Green develop into one of the best receivers in the league. Joe Burrow had a really good rookie season. We've seen multiple times that the Bengals have been able to develop these guys. When you look at the Eagles, really, they haven't been able to do that, quite frankly. Apart from defensive line, apart from offensive line, what real playmakers stand out to you in the past 10 years for the Eagles in terms of what they've actually developed?
Like Malcolm Jenkins, but he came from the Saints. He was already a developed player, right? So, yeah, I know what you mean. And again, we still love Devontae Smith. He's still a guy that I'm absolutely like all in on.
You're picking hairs. You're literally picking hairs, but I'm going to trust the organizational stability of the Bengals.
Which is surprising to say about the Cincinnati Bengals franchise, but I do think it's a slightly more favorable situation. Not to mention, I personally had Jamar Chase as the better talent coming out, and I just think the offensive infrastructure is better there. So Spicy Hottas and Chubb is getting more involved in that passing work. I don't know if we're ever going to see Nick Chubb become a featured passing down back. 30, 40, 50 receptions maximum is all I can see for a guy like Nick Chubb, especially with Kareem Hunt there. They obviously want a receiving complement to him, and it makes sense because Chubb, while he's capable in the passing game, is not a passing down back.
Yeah, I mean, and we're talking about a guy who had 18 targets in 12 games last year, and he was still the RB11 in 12 games. That just goes to show that he has elite upside as it is. And if he ever gets, I know he was going to be my next pick. And if he ever gets any slight uptick in the receiving work, if he ever gets the 40, 45 type targets that we could see from him, given his fucking talent, like this is a guy who could be well worth a top 3, top 5 overall dynasty running back. So, I feel pain right now. I wanted Elijah Moore.
I was hoping one of Bateman or Elijah Moore would get back to me, but I guess that was a stupid idea in my opinion.
Well, like I was going to take Debo here and then try to get Eli Moore on the way back, but I kind of got sniped on that.
Yeah, a little bit.
There's a couple names in particular that are really catching my eye right now.
Yeah. If you notice, this is a lot of people who are giving fantasy advice specifically will say to wait until this point in the draft to take receivers, right? Like from probably the 5th to the 8th round is when you're going to see a lot of these guys go off. And you can see there's a lot of blue on this chart, right? Although like from everyone from the Michael Thomas, Mike Evans type tier down to like Laviska Shenault, Cortland Sutton type guys, they're all going to fly quick in this area. So the reason I don't mind the strategy of fading quarterbacks is because you can get your guys early, right? In our listener startup, I got AJ Brown and Devontae Adams early. So I was okay on missing out on a lot of these guys that are productive wide receiver 2 types because I got my bona fide wide receiver 1s early. And I'm sacrificing a bit at quarterback, obviously, because I have lesser caliber quarterbacks than some of the top guys, but I'm getting, in my opinion, a better value at this point in the draft because everybody takes receivers here. So by me not doing that, they're pushing down other positions.
100%. And I'll briefly mention my pick. I got Odell Beckham at the 905. And let's be honest, on this channel, we have not been the advocates for Odell Beckham, but you're telling me I'm getting a guy who has shown what he has at the 905 in a startup draft. This is the type of point where I'm going to take swings for the fences. If Odell Beckham even becomes 75% of the player that he's shown he's been capable of being in the past, this is an absolute steal. So this is a type of value, 905, which is probably worth an early 2nd round pick in your rookie drafts. I'm taking that any day of the week.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that's pretty solid value on him. And I got kind of sniped to some extent. I wanted Mac Jones to fall to me here because I have 2 older quarterbacks, so I was looking for a bit of a younger guy. I'm going to take Daniel Jones just because he's still a younger guy. If I don't pick a quarterback there, I'm probably screwed at the position as far as QB depth goes. Daniel Jones may be a little bit of a riskier pick because I'm really betting on him to become the long-term answer in New York because while Daniel Jones is young, I would argue that Daniel Jones is more of a win now pick than a future pick because the only real job security Daniel Jones has is for the remainder of his rookie contract right now because we don't know if, like, as of what he's shown right now, he has not shown enough to get a second contract in New York. So
absolutely not. Yeah.
As of right now, we know he's going to be a locked and loaded starter for at least the next year or two. And I'm kind of just betting on him taking a step forward with this pick.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with the rationale there. And quite frankly, I would have considered him if he fell to me. So I completely agree. There's honestly, I'm looking at the quarterback situation now. There's only really a couple guys that even stand out to me. So
there's a few stopgap options like Jared Goff on the board still. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger, I guess, is technically a starting quarterback. Jameis Winston also technically a starting quarterback, but it's pretty risky right now, which is why I said when you fade quarterback in a dynasty startup, this is the area of the draft that you're targeting when you fade it because all the receivers are going to fly off the board. And if I wanted to, I could have taken another quarterback after Stafford and Rodgers and filled out my core with a Baker Mayfield, with a Carson Wentz there or a Tom Brady, Mac Jones or something like that.
And I'm paying right now because Terrace Marshall just got snapped.
Oh, dude, he had literally had him in my queue.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
Dude, I wanted to pair him with Darnold and DJ Moore.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Oh man.
I am gonna look to.
Oh wait, we have a couple comments too we didn't get into.
I'm gonna grab Amon-Ra St. Brown here. Just get some youth on the roster.
Jared said the way he saw it is he can get much better wide receiver value, so which we saw here with the win now receivers, rather than the RB value. So, and he's not the biggest more guy. Okay, so it makes sense. Yeah, you got Josh Allen in our league. Yeah, he's gonna be a stud, man. It's gonna be a stud. Tyler Lockett is win now. I agree. I mean, he's tethered to the right arm of Russell Wilson. We don't really know about the future of Tyler Lockett once Russell Wilson's gone, and we just saw Taysom Hill go off the board. What the heck?
Yeah.
Okay. That just caught me for a loop. I'm going to take Dallas Goedert here. I think he's the last of the second tier tight end options. So getting here at the 10-8, I think is incredible value. That being said, I'm just
so Leonardo says, what's Clyde's value in a rookie pick? And to me, this is an interesting discussion. When you look at where he was selected, right? He was selected 3-7 in this draft. And you look at the guys around where he was selected, where they went in the rookie draft this year. You got Justin Fields at the 3-6. Later on, you got Travis Etienne at the 3-9. So according to this, I would basically say I actually have Etienne ahead of Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So to me, that equals about you're talking about Clyde Edwards-Helaire versus like a Zach Wilson, for example, in a startup draft, which is like 106 type value for a guy like Clyde. I mean, it's all going to depend on what your team needs. I would rather have Etienne straight up over Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and I think with the 106 in most leagues, you'd be able to get Travis Etienne, and I would also rather have Javonte Williams than Clyde Edwards-Helaire too. So that's about the value you're looking at. I would say between the 105 and the 108 is probably about the value appropriate for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, depending on if you're on the higher end side of some of the running backs in this class, or if you like Clyde that much, you're willing to give up a 105 for him.
Yep, no, I fully agree with that evaluation. And there's one guy I'm actually hoping falls to me here. I'm sure you can kind of guess at this point.
I'm guessing it's like Michael Gallup, just because you take Michael Gallup in every single draft.
Gallup's gone. There's actually two guys. I just noticed one. Oh yeah, Jared's.
So one thing you guys should know about Sexy Pats here is that he is a Clyde Edwards-Helaire truther. So
and he hates Javonte Williams.
And he hates Javonte Williams. So he thinks I'm high because this is his big. This is his guy. I'm not high. And I think it's a conversation. I'm not saying I would like absolutely 10 out of 10 times take Javonte Williams over him. The Clyde Edwards-Helaire discussion has and always will be for the rest of the summer a discussion of talent, because Andy Reid, we know he is capable of producing RB1 type assets with Brian Westbrook, with Kareem Hunt, with all the guys that he's had in his backfield situation. Clyde underperformed last year. However way you slice it, he was lower than what his expectations were expected to be, which is why they took some of his workload away from him. So I think if Clyde comes out this year, and we're hearing a lot of camp buzz, we're hearing everything like Clyde looks like a different player. He looks great. He looks awesome. He looks amazing. Then I'm willing to take a shot on the guy, because I think then Andy Reid will be less reluctant to give him pass catching work and stuff like that, because I do think it was a talent issue last year. I don't think it was Andy Reid's holding him back because he hates Clyde or he likes running a committee or whatever. I do think it was legitimately his talent that held him back last year.
Yeah, to a certain degree. I mean, we saw when he was healthy in the first 6 games before they brought in Le'Veon Bell, he was getting trusted. He just wasn't able to produce, quite frankly. And
yeah, he wasn't bad. He's not a terrible running back. He just fell a little bit below expectations.
And I still like him. I still have him as a mid-rank type RB2 in Dynasty. But yeah, I don't agree with the people that are just giving up on him right away. But I also don't agree with the people saying, oh, yeah, what he did as a rookie should be completely discounted. Because quite frankly, he put on the field what he put on the field.
Right. And we're not having a discussion if J.K. Dobbins or Jonathan Taylor was a Kansas City Chief last year, because they, quite frankly, would have done a lot better of a job, in my opinion. So from a talent perspective, I have to rank him below guys that I think have, more potential. And I'm higher on Javonte Williams and Travis Etienne than most people. So if you're not as risk tolerant as I am, I would have. Oh, I just got auto picked Hunter Henry, but that's brutal. I'm pretty risk tolerant with that stuff, so I'm willing to bet on the rookies over a guy like Clyde, even though technically probably that's the riskier thing to do.
Also, Jared, we talked about the reason why we're not going to completely dismiss Clyde's rookie year, but man, I don't get your disdain for freaking Javonte Williams, because when he's putting up numbers and was leading my team to this championship in Scott's Tots, you're going to be recognizing the talent.
Yeah.
All right. Tight end premium. Easton, it is not tight end premium, which is why we kind of see the tight ends fall in that value here. My guy better get back to me or I'm going to be big mad. Well, hopefully he did. Did you end up getting, was it Tunyon?
I'm not sure how long ago that comment was put in. It was only put in a couple minutes ago, so maybe he's thinking at the 12-12, the guy that's going to get back to him.
So he said Brian Westbrook took 3 years to become a workhorse. Reed doesn't just throw his rookie running back.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you, and that's why I do believe in Clyde next year. I just think everything. Oh, am I getting auto picked? I did. Okay. Whoops. AJ Dillon went off the board.
Green Dillon, baby. Yeah.
I don't really care, to be honest. AJ Dillon is a guy that is probably going to be undervalued by a lot of people. I think what they're going to do in terms of a workhorse role for Aaron Jones, he's going to take over Jamal Williams' role plus his old role. And then they're going to create a role for AJ Dillon, which is now the early down banger role. Instead of giving AJ Dillon Jamal Williams role, because that wouldn't make any sense because they're like different types of running backs. They're going to take some carries away from Aaron Jones, but give him more receptions is basically how I see it. And quickly on Clyde, I agree with everything you just said. I think he's probably going to have a bigger role next year. The question is, how big is that role going to be? Because it will be a talent thing. If he is playing out of his mind, he will get a workhorse type volume. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire has top 5 upside. In the offense that he plays in, the amount of goal line work that he could get, and the amount of receiving work he could get, he has crazy upside. So he's still a guy I'm willing to take a chance on. And it's the same tier that we're talking about here. Javonte, Travis Etienne, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, it's the same tier, in my opinion. Yeah. I have them like 16, 17, 18 in my rankings. So I believe in all those guys. And to be honest, Clyde is the last guy that I'm willing to really bet on in the early rounds because I do have questions about Mixon and Sanders and Jacobs and some of the guys that close out my top 20. Yeah, Danny's eating right now, so I'll let him chew and not talk with his mouth open. So
sorry.
Nate said, damn, I showed up late. I'll have to catch the beginning later. Yeah, no worries. No, it's Mr. Irrelevant. Yeah, so Jared's waiting for someone at his 12-12. Leonardo says, am I crazy for thinking Andrews is a post-draft loser with all the talent coming in? No. I would say no. I don't think he is a post-draft loser because I think, like I said, rising tide raises all ships. I think if the offense, and specifically the passing offense, gets better, that's a good thing for Andrews because Andrews is the focus of that passing offense. Maybe Rashad Bateman steps into that role and you could see Andrews as a loser from that perspective. But I think we're talking about a guy that's always going to be teetering on the double-digit touchdown type of range. And that's really the value you're getting out of Andrews, right? You're getting that red zone ability. You're not getting a guy that gets 140 targets a year. You're getting a guy that gets 90 to 100 targets, but probably scores 10 to 12 touchdowns. So from that perspective, I don't think Andrews is losing value. He took Kyle Trask at the last pick.
100%. Would you want to do one more, or you good for mocks? What do you think?
No, we can close this one out. We're at 42 minutes right now. Okay. We also want people to watch this one back on YouTube. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed that, if you're new to the channel, you guys can subscribe below if you haven't already done so. You can comment any of your thoughts down below, like the video if you enjoyed, and join the Discord. Totally free to do. These guys that are in this draft, they didn't have to pay for this. They didn't have to subscribe to anything on their email or anything like that. So this is totally free to do. If you guys want to join the Discord, you can get constant access to a lot of dynasty players, a lot of fantasy players, constant access to us as well. You can DM us anytime on there and ask us your questions. We'll be happy to answer that. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed that, as I mentioned, peace out and enjoy your Sunday.
Peace out, y'all. Enjoy.